Joe Dumars just said the quiet part out loud about Zion Williamson, and if that's the case, the Pelicans just need to trade him. It's the Thursday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with y'all on this Thursday. Joe Dumars said it, not me in this one. We're going to break down what his comments about depth mean for Zion Williamson and probably then what it means the team should do. He said the quiet part out loud. Then we're going to get into the latest Trey Murphy trade rumors that are not actually rumors. And then the Pelicans need to look in a mirror and really figure out who they are, what they want to be, because that's going to help make roster decisions as this season unfolds. So let's get into it in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. And if you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below. So I'm going to read you the quote. The Everydayers heard this yesterday, but I'm going to read you the quote again from what Joe Dumars said at the Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club. This is transcribed courtesy of Jim Eichenhofer of Pelicans.com. Quote, I said to Mrs. Benson, it's hard as heck to build a great team if you solely depend on one guy. You can't do that because what that means is he has to be healthy for 82 games and never miss a game. And you know that's not going to happen. And I even said when you saw a team like the Patriots and you say Tom Brady is the GOAT, but usually people talked about what a great organization and great team they have, end quote. Here's the key part of this, right? Quote, and you know that's not going to happen. And you know that's not going to happen is what he said about Zion Williamson. And this was, about him talking about how he wanted to build a deep team. We want to be, quote, we want to be deep. We want to be 10, 11, 12 players deep. So if that generational talent isn't on the court for 2 weeks, we still win. You can't build a team, especially in professional sports, when you're dependent on one guy. As great as Steph Curry is, their team is great, end quote. I disagreed with that, and I explained why yesterday. I understand the argument for depth. I've even called Derek Queen the insurance policy for the New Orleans Pelicans for Zion Williamson. But here's the thing. If you can't rely on your star player to be healthy, and it's not just 2 weeks, right? If he only missed 2 weeks of a whole season, we wouldn't be having this discussion, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander misses some games. You've seen guys like Nikola Jokic miss some time. Giannis miss some time. That's not what we're talking about here. What we are talking about is missing extended periods of time, or like near the whole season. Right? When you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he played 76 games last year out of 82. That's 6 games missed. That's about 2 weeks. That's about 2 weeks if you're playing every other day or so. Year before that, 75 games, right? When you have Nikola Jokic, 70 games last year. He missed 12 games. It happens, And so when I see this and what they're doing, I don't think this is the same as Zion missing like that period of time. When they won the title, when Denver won the title, Jokic played 69 games that year. That's more than 2 weeks. It's capable of being fine when that happens. When you look at Zion Williamson and how many games he's missed, this is someone who played 30 games last year, 70 games the year before that, then 29 games, then missed an entire season, then 61, which is a good number, and then 24 his rookie year. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6 seasons that he has played 30 or fewer games. This is not a guy that plays 70 games and it's like, cool, let's put a little bit of depth in to just kind of sustain us here. When you have a guy missing that much time, depth isn't going to help you. There's no way to recreate it, right? So if you publicly say, And that's not going to happen regarding Zion Williamson staying healthy. That's what this is here. Just trade him. At that point, just trade Zion Williamson. You know what's better than trying to build a team with depth or have insurance around Zion Williamson is building a team around a guy that's going to play 70 plus games every year that you feel really good about that, barring some sort of fluke thing that you can't plan for no matter what. That's better. If you know he's going to miss that time, don't try and plan for the missed time. Just get someone who's not going to miss time. It's that simple here. You're never going to be able to win if Zion's not playing. I mean, you can win games, but it's not going to be what you want. So just move on from him and bring somebody else in or find that other guy. They don't quite have it, let's say, on the team right now or, ready to make that sort of impact. You need to find the guy that's going to play. Like, this is saying the quiet part out loud. And he's even saying it out loud, right? It's not even quiet. We all know this. This isn't some sort of like secret or anything here. It's tough to build around a guy that's not going to play as good as that player can be. It's why I've been referring to Zion Williamson as a paradox. Everyone gets this. The fan survey that I put out truly hit on all of this. People understood that, hey, if he plays, we can be good, but if he doesn't, it's not going to matter. And I don't feel particularly, good that he's going to stay healthy. We have media day coming up. We'll be able to talk to Zion, hear from Zion about what he's doing, and it'll be all the usual good things. And then we'll see if it happens or not during the season. Admittedly, Zion looked different at the end of last year. Looked more bought in, looked in the best shape we've seen him, was trying hard on defense, was on a minutes restriction. He could have played more than 30 games last year. Could have been in the 50s. But even then, that's not a great number. I don't want to rely on someone that's, ceiling it feels like is 50-something games. So if you feel you can't rely on him, don't build your team around managing those missed games. If they had traded away Zion before the draft or on draft night, do they necessarily trade up to go get Derek Queen? If you view Derek Queen as Zion insurance, and look, with the Troy Weaver connection, maybe they were just always going to do that. But if that's the case, right, is there a better way to manage your assets, manage your draft picks? Do you need to give up a future unprotected first for Derek Queen if you don't have Zion? And I'm not sure the answer to that is yes. And so if you hated that trade, and most people do, how much of that is due to Zion and them trying to kind of manage the expected injuries and games missed that he's going to have? That doesn't seem like the best way to run a team, to manage your assets, and to ultimately win games. So if you feel this way about him, just trade him. Waive him. You could have basically gotten out for no money with Zion Williamson. Someone would have taken a flyer on him for relatively little, but you could have gotten something in return versus nothing. And so that's what I think how we need to view this, right? Like, this is disappointing that we're going into year 7 and these are still the conversations that we're having, and it could change, right? That's one of the reasons why you don't want to give up on Zion Williamson is what if he puts it all together? That prospect is tantalizing. But if Joe Dumars is going to say, and that's not going to happen, you don't need guys to play 82 games. You need guys to play 70 games. Do you feel confident in getting 70 games out of Zion Williamson based off the track record that he has? And I don't know that the answer to that is yes, and Joe Dumars is basically saying no. And if that's the case, then you should just trade him because you're going to use your assets in a bad way to try and mitigate those injuries or to go with a depth building procedure, team building process that isn't the way to go and do this. These type of comments are what makes me most nervous for the team. So, do you agree? Do you disagree? Should they trade Zion? Should they not? Especially after hearing what Joe Dumars has to say. One guy that's not going to get traded, no matter what other people hope for, is Trey Murphy III. There's some new NBA rumors out there. I'll give you the quote and also then say it doesn't matter. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what's in those accounts. So whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments, and when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch's for you. It does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link your account in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and you're going to finally feel in control without ever touching a spreadsheet. So you can identify that you're not saving as much as you thought. Put more money into that 401k. Or if you're planning for the future with a partner, like I am, planning a wedding, honeymoon, all of that. Want to make sure we're on the same financial page? Monarch's great for that. We're seeing our long-term goals. We know what our budget is. It makes things really easy. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Type it into your browser with code LOCKEDONNBA. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. For your second listen, it's Locked On Saints with Ross Jackson, making sense of everything black and gold. Week 3, going to get a win against Seattle? Maybe, maybe not. Ross Jackson's going to let you know over the Locked On Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make him your second listen today. So there are some news and rumors about Trey Murphy III out there. And I'm going to tell you right now, you don't need to worry about any of this. This comes from Jake Fisher, who I think is as credible as they come with, Bleacher Report. He's with Mark Stein's newsletter as well. I trust Jake Fisher. Here's the quote he said on YouTube the other day. Quote, and this is in regards to the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga, and it seems like we're going to get some resolution on that, that side of everything here. Quote, Trey Murphy in New Orleans is someone the Warriors really have interest in. Someone they almost took in that 2021 NBA draft at number 14 overall when they were deciding between Trey Murphy and Moses Moody, just like the Warriors were deciding between Kuminga and Franz Wagner. End quote. Okay, cool. Look, you know what, Warriors? You can absolutely have interest in Trey Murphy. Hey, Houston Rockets, you can absolutely have interest in Trey Murphy. I don't care. You want to know why? You're not getting him. They're not trading him to you. The Pelicans need to want to trade him, and they absolutely do not. This is one of those things where everything can be true. They can have interest in him and he's not going to get traded. You want to know who the Pelicans have interest in? They have interest in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They'd love to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the team. I don't even need to source that. I can tell you. They would love that. Does it matter? Doesn't matter at all, right? All of those teams that have interest in Giannis, doesn't matter if they're not going to trade him or if he doesn't want to be traded. It's really as simple as that. Maybe not if he doesn't want to be traded. We've seen that with Luka Doncic. That might not factor into it anymore. Look, Trey Murphy is really good. He's poised to take a big leap this year and be the number 2 guy on the team behind Zion Williamson. If and when Zion Williamson goes down, he'll be the number 1. If this team is talking about how we need to compete and have depth, when Zion Williamson gets hurt and misses time, you're not trading away Trey Murphy. You're not going to trade him away at all. That part is very, very obvious to me. That's not going to be a thing. So when you hear these rumors, I don't care. I don't care at all. The idea that, we'll give you 3 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks, those picks aren't going to be good. Cool. Here's the 25th pick, a 27th pick, a 23rd pick, and another 27th pick. Don't care. Not for that guy, right? Trey Murphy is one of the better guys from that draft class here, and he looks like he's going to get even better. He's also just a very likable guy, someone that is very easy to root for. They're not looking to trade him at all. If they were going to trade him, it would have happened by now. You don't do that deal right before the season starts. He's frankly a better player, in my opinion, than Jonathan Kuminga is. I'm not the biggest Jonathan Kuminga fan. I get why he's a little bit intriguing here, but this is not someone that I think is anywhere close to it, right? Does Kuminga fit next to Zion Williamson? And the answer is not as well as Trey Murphy fits next to Zion Williamson. Jonathan Kuminga, who had averaged 15.3 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 2.2 assists, and shot 30.5% from three. No, I'm good. Like, I'll pass here. Look, the per 36 minute numbers look good. 22.6 points per game, 6.8 rebounds. All right. But he's not a shooter. This is not someone that fits on this roster right now, should they need that kind of guy. And right, per 36 minutes, Trey was right there. 21.8 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, but he also took 8.5 3-point attempts and shot the ball at 36%. He's a career 38% shooter from three. Kuminga, for his career, is better than the 30.5, 33.2%. That's not a good number. He took, per 36 minutes, under 5 attempts per game, 4.8. Those aren't what I want next to Zion Williamson. The rebounding's fine, but I think Trey can make a leap there, and Trey, frankly, is taller than Jonathan Kuminga is. Kuminga plays more downhill, tries to get to the line, puts more pressure on the basket, but you just drafted Jeremiah Fears. You traded for Jordan Poole to provide a lot of that for you. You don't necessarily need that out of Trey Murphy, though Trey has grown in that capacity too. And we know he's been working on that kind of dribble drive game where he can put even more pressure on the rim. So when I hear these rumors, they're not even rumors. It's hoping, it's wishing. That's what this is here. They can wish for Trey Murphy all they want. If the Pelicans wanted Kuminga, they'd have Kuminga by now. They would have included Herb Jones in a trade for him, right? That was what we had heard the reported package was. And then, by the way, they just gave Herb Jones the extension, meaning he's not getting traded. So I don't really think there was much truth from this. This is the Warriors trying to make things happen through the media, and it's not going to happen. I'd say stop, like, don't bother. You don't need to do this, Warriors. That won't change a thing, right? Teams do try and negotiate through the media and all of that, but Trey's not going anywhere. I think they view him as a cornerstone piece of this franchise, as someone they really want to build around. And I think they want to see what they get out of him this year. You know, it's looking like, we'll find out more on Media Day on Tuesday, that he is going to be healthy to start the year, that he's going to be ready to go. Everyone should be feeling really good about Trey Murphy III. He's also just like a beloved player, and you've got to be kind of wary of trading away those guys. In a year where people are kind of out on the Pelicans right now, if you trade away Trey Murphy, like even for Kuminga, let's say, that's not going to exactly make the fan base happy. You know, if you trade him for a worse package of like Buddy Hield and Moses Moody and 3 first-round picks, like that's not good. That's the type of thing that would cause, I think, the fan base to really give up on this team and revolt a little bit, and they need to factor that in. So I don't see a world where Trey Murphy III is getting traded, and I could see a world where if Zion goes down, it's really his opportunity to prove he's the number one guy. He did that a lot last year too. 21.2 points per game is really, really good. He grew in terms of passing the ball and dishing out assists, 3.5 per game, a career high for him by far. He was outstanding last year. You don't need to just move on from that guy on a team-friendly deal too. If anything, this is when he's kind of worth the most, because at $25 million a year, average annual value, like that's really a great number for this Pelicans team. For the extension that they signed to, it's a little bit more than that. There's no way they're just going to give him up for pennies. And those first round picks, if you're still trying to be competitive, don't matter as much. And so unless you're trading Zion too, if you trade Zion, then maybe it becomes a fire sale. But we've seen no indication clearly that they're not trading Zion, right? Like, even if you could argue they should, they're not. So they're not going to trade Trey Murphy III either. You know what? Keep being interested in him, Warriors. I'm interested in winning the lottery too, right? Doesn't mean it's going to happen. So coming up next, let's get back to kind of some of the Zion talk and the Pelicans. They need to look in the mirror. They need to look in the mirror and just decide who they're going to be. This types into the 2-timeline approach, something I've talked a lot about. Let's discuss it further coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. So think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber, a service provider. I just needed someone to come look at our AC. If the first person didn't answer, and they didn't for me because it was late, I didn't wait. I just called the second number. And then they answered, and that's who came out to service everything and get the business and the money the next morning. You move on. That's what you do. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. So OpenPhone is going to let you manage business calls and texts from a single app, and they have a shared inbox feature, which is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent handles calls after hours. They answer common questions and captures leads so you never miss a customer. So OpenPhone is offering Locked On Pelicans listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing number with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well, and become an everydayer. It means you listen Monday through Friday. For your second listen, it's got to be Locked On Sports Today. They're still covering our Locked On NBA top 100 players. The full list over at Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Make that your second listen today. So the Pelicans need to look in the mirror. They need to figure out who they want to be and not kind of straddle multiple approaches. I've talked a lot about the 2-timeline approach between Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, and Zion Williamson. There's a win now approach right now, and then also a let's build for the future behind 2 lottery picks approach. And it means you just don't end up doing either of those approaches particularly well. And I don't think that's a great thing to be. I don't think the Pelicans, as of this second, need to make a decision on that. I've said they're not stuck. They just don't know which direction they want to go to yet, but there are 2 paths ahead of them, and they're going to eventually pick one and go down that road. They need to figure it out by the trade deadline, but they have a little bit of time here. And it might, you might kind of kick the tires on one approach before fully committing to the other one, right? This is why I think things get a little bit hairy for Willie Green, early on in the season if this team is underachieving and the schedule is pretty tough. So you need to look in a mirror and start to figure out who you want to be. If you're in the Zion business and this team is still in the Zion business, don't go halfway on it and be like, well, we'll make up for the times that he's not here with depth. If you're going to believe in Zion, if you're going to build around Zion, then believe in Zion Williamson and upgrade your center position. Trade for a Walker Kessler. You could have used that future unprotected first-round pick to get almost any center you wanted in the league. You could have gotten Jarrett Allen for that, I'd be willing to bet, or somebody else that would make a lot of sense for this squad. And you believe in Zion and you upgrade your starting high-end talent, your starting 5 who plays the most minutes for you. And your 5th starter is worth far more than your 10th, 11th, or 12th man. Because they're going to be playing 30-plus minutes per game, and your 10th, 11th, or 12th man is going to be playing like 8, under 10 minutes per game. Their impact won't be felt nearly as much as upgrading another position. So that's what I find so frustrating about these comments from Joe Dumars is, again, this team is trying to kind of straddle the line between 2 different things, and it means you're not going to do either particularly well. If you are building around Zion, then build around Zion. Find that rim protecting 3-point shooting big and move a bunch of stuff to get him. And if you're concerned that, well, Zion might get hurt, well, so we don't want to kind of do that, right? In the listener survey, when it was like, what should the Pelicans do next? One of the biggest things, the thing that won the most was like, basically don't do anything and preserve future flexibility because y'all didn't trust Zion. So if the team's like, yeah, we can't commit because Zion might get hurt and we might need to get rid of him in a year, and then you have these players that don't fit around other guys and it's not what we need because we're going through a rebuild, then just trade away Zion Williamson in the first place and go through that rebuild, and don't go halfway down that road and then pivot to a different one. Figure out what your direction is and go in that direction. And I don't think the Pelicans as a team have truly figured that out. Yeah, they might say they are, right? They might be telegraphing certain things of, well, we're going to be in the playoffs next year. We want to compete. We want to win games, but then be like, well, our star player, he's not going to be healthy. So we need depth. That's not what you need to be doing here. That's going to lead to this team kind of feeling actually stuck and stagnating and not having much of a future. And we'll talk more about the future tomorrow because ESPN just released their future power rankings. And it does not paint the Pelicans particularly well. And that is really concerning to me. Now, I don't think they're going to be as bad as ESPN says. And we'll break down everything and I'll show you where they're right and where they're wrong. But overall, like the Pelicans need to pick a direction. And I don't know if they know what direction to go down. And also, I don't know at this point if I trust them to go down whatever direction it is that they choose to go down. You know, the comments about depth, well, we want to have great 10th, 11th, 12th man. I'd rather have a good 3rd, 4th, and 5th starters, right? Players, rotation guys. Nice. You don't play those guys in the postseason. So who cares? Might win you some games in the regular season. Cool. You make it to the postseason, you get swept in the first round like what happened to the Pelicans 2 years ago. The depth, and they were deep then, didn't make up for Zion not being there in the playoffs. You need to pick a direction. And, you know, while I'm saying they don't need to do it just yet, and they don't, you're going to need to eventually, but I'm not sure this team is going to commit to that, and it makes me nervous. But we'll see. There's plenty of time. We don't know the future. There's plenty of time for that to unfold, and we'll kind of figure it out. We're going to be along for the ride. We got Media Day coming up too. So we'll preview that a little bit in tomorrow's show. We'll preview that heavily on Monday's show for y'all. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for everything. So we're going to be here covering it. I'll be at Media Day interviewing the players. It's going to be really awesome. There's going to be a lot of really great content coming, so stay tuned for more. So as always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I appreciate y'all so much for listening. As always, I'll be with y'all next time.